Before Joel and I even got into a relationship, I knew that he was my husband. Literally before the relationship started, I knew how that sucker was gonna end, okay, with the ring. How did I know? And it honestly came down to one thing. I really believe that you can use this determining factor to know whether or not this guy is your husband or not. And it literally just came down to, give me some. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if it's your first time. I'm Kiara and I'm super excited, y'all, to be talking about how I knew that my husband was the one. I've watched so many videos of women talking about this, and I'm really excited to just bring my story and even share my thoughts concerning this topic, because it's such a huge topic and something that every woman who desires to be married, they look forward to, they anticipate, they're anxious about it. So I'm just really excited to share this with you all. I just want to thank Dossier for sponsoring this part of the video. If you guys do not know, Dossier is a fragrance brand company. They have perfumes, they have colognes, genderless scents, and unisex scents. They pretty much specialize in having luxury scents for an affordable price. They have perfumes that start at $29 and up, and I actually love them. Joel has a few, he loves them. For the longest, I was just a body oil girl. I just wore body oils, but honestly, since trying out Dossier, I have incorporated their perfumes into my regimen, and I get a lot of compliments, y'all, on me smelling good. It does feel really good to just have something to spray on your clothes and stuff like that. So I really love them. So I'm just gonna share two different fragrances with you guys. So the first one is Ambery Vanilla, and this has mandarin, pear, pink pepper, jasmine, orange blossom, cedarwood, vanilla, and coffee, as well as other scents. This smells really good. When I first sprayed this, I was like, oh, okay. Like, it was like, this is not an everyday scent. This is definitely like, you walk past someone, they're going to turn around once they get a sniff of you. And then the other one that I got is Fruity Jasmine. And this has mandarin, green leaves, sweet pea, jasmine, peach, sandalwood, plum, and other scents as well in here. And this one is more of like a fresh scent, y'all. Like this smells so good. Like, it's given fresh out the shower. This smells so good. I really actually love this one. This probably is like within my top 3 of the scents that I have from them. But honestly, I like all of the scents, but like top 3, like stuff that I'm probably gonna be wearing on a daily would be definitely Fruity Jasmine. I really like Dossier because all of their scents are cruelty-free. You know exactly what's in them. It doesn't have any of those harsh chemicals or anything like that. So I definitely do recommend them. You can get luxury brand scents for an affordable price. And we all know we're all about affordability over here on this side of YouTube. If you're interested in shopping with Dossier, you can click the link in my description to shop them online, or you can also shop them at Walmart. Thank you again, Dossier, for sponsoring this part of the video, and let's get into how I knew that my husband was the one. Okay, so I have notes on my phone, so if you see me looking down or you see me looking at my phone, it's because I'm looking at my notes, okay? Because I don't want to be before y'all long, says every preacher ever. How did I know that my husband was the one? So before Joel and I even got into a relationship, before we became boyfriend and girlfriend, I knew that he was my husband. Literally before the relationship started, I knew how that sucker was gonna end, okay, with the ring. And how, right? How did I know? And it honestly came down to one thing. Ladies who are single and you desire to be married and you haven't met your husband yet, I really believe that you can use this determining factor to know whether or not this guy is your husband or not. And it literally just came down to, God told me. Simple as that. In the video, we can all go home. Thank you so much. Like, comment, and subscribe. But no, literally God told me. And so the question really isn't how I knew that my husband was the one. The real question is, how did I know that God told me? What were the things that happened? What were the things that God did? Where was I at mentally? What was going on? Things like that. Because I really think that knowing this information could really help you and you may be able to apply it to your situation. Just a little side note, I am a Christian. I do love God. God's gonna come up a lot in this video. If you are not a believer, I still encourage you to watch because something may resonate with you or whatever the case may be. So I just wanted to throw that out there. So how did God tell me that my husband was the one? Well, the first way was through prophecy. So if you don't know what prophecy is, it is the foretelling of the future. It is God sharing his thoughts and what he's going to do in the future. So I received a prophetic word regarding what God was going to do in my life and what my future looked like. And that was sent through one of God's prophets who is a messenger of God. The prophecy that I received, I was 18 years old, and it was saying that God is shaping my husband for me and I for him, and my husband will look like God and our marriage will cause many to come to Christ. So at 18, I knew, one, okay, I'm gonna be married. Two, God wants me married. Three, God has somebody specifically for me. Four, that God is shaping and molding us for one another. Five, that my husband is gonna look like God, so I just can't be with any old body. And six, that our marriage is going to cause many to come to Christ. So I knew that our marriage had purpose and had value. The second prophecy I received was about 6 years later. It was 2017. And I received a prophetic word saying that past doors were open. And that means that I already met my husband. So if you're not familiar with Joel and I's love story, we met in 2016. Okay, yeah. So at the time of receiving this prophecy, I had just broken up with my college boyfriend, a guy who I should have never been with in the first place. At that time, I was really hopeful in the relationship because I really wanted us to get back together. So I was thinking like, oh, God is gonna save him. Because I was in a relationship with someone, we were unequally yoked. I was just really trying to follow God and do things God's way. And he really wasn't at the time. So I was just believing that God was gonna save him and we're gonna get back together. And that was the past door that God was talking about, right? Because if you know our love story, then you know when I met Joel, it was in Vegas. I was intoxicated. I didn't even remember his name. And I actually was getting ready to get into a relationship with my college boyfriend. So I really wasn't thinking about Joel like that. So honestly, at the time of receiving this prophetic word, Joel was nowhere on my mind. Like, I didn't even know the man's name. And so for years, I literally believed that that past door was my old college boyfriend, but it actually wasn't. It was Joel, and I'm so thankful for that. I was 23 years old. Was I 23? 2017. Hold on, child. Let me do the math. 2017. What's 2023 minus 2017? That was 6 years ago, and I'm 29. Okay, yeah, so I was 23 years old. So by the time I was 23 years old, I had even more insight on who my husband was, the one that God had for me. And I knew that, okay, I met him before. I've crossed paths with this guy before, in addition to all of the other things that I knew. So another way that God told me who my husband was through revelation and confirmation. And that came from me hearing God's voice. And for me to even hear God's voice, I had to get in the right posture to hear God's voice. So I just want to walk y'all through what that looked like for me and some of the steps that I did. So the very first thing that I did to just get in the right posture with God was I repented. Because from 2017, like kind of a little bit in 2018, I was really living life for me. I really wasn't living life according to God's will and God's way. I sure wasn't, for me to know and have those prophetic words that I received, I literally forgot about them because the type of man that I was entertaining did not even match, okay? So I repented, and that means I just went the opposite way. I went towards God because the things that I was doing was pulling me away from God. And so with that, I really had a hunger and a desire to get to know God and to really just have God become number one in my life. I had a lot of other competing things that were number one in my life, and I seen what that looked like, and I just hit rock bottom, and I was tired of doing life my way, and I just was like, God, I need to do life your way, because life with you, people say is good. I was raised up to believe in it, and I was just like, I'm gonna go back to that because that is what's sustaining and that's what's gonna give me life. I just began to spend a lot of quality time with God, and in that, I began to learn God's voice. The more I was reading my word and spending time with God, I got in a community of believers, And so I joined a church and I was with other young people, like-minded people. I had gained friendships, godly friendships, and all of those things as well. And then too, I was also serving at my local church, and I was just developing spiritually. My spirit was getting fed. And then, when I'm not amongst believers or I'm not serving, I was, spending time with God. I spent a lot of time with God, which is very amazing. So in me spending time with God, and I'm just doing it just to be with God. Like, I wasn't doing it because I wanted something from God. I wasn't doing it because I was like, oh, okay, let me see, if God gonna tell me who my husband is. At this point in time, I really was not even concerned about who my husband was, because I felt so broken. I had felt so undeserving. I just felt like I didn't deserve marriage or a husband. I felt like God had so much work and so much healing to do within me before that even came about. So when I was spending time with God, I was just going to God for God because I was hungry for him. And so in that, I got in the right posture to hear from God. And God began to share with me my purpose. He began to share with me what he wanted to do in my life, why I was brought to this earth, what my future looked like, and also the type of man that he has for me. He would share with me about the things that we'll do together, and the purpose that he has for us and what he'll look like. And then also, because I was surrounded in a community of believers, I was around, other godly men. So I'm just able to see how they act and how they operate. And God would be showing me other men. I see men godly men on social media. I see even godly men in my own life. God would just begin to highlight, these characteristics that these men had, and just letting me know, like, this is, something that I want you to have. Your husband's gonna have these characteristics. So honestly, it was like, in my words, God was revealing to me a blueprint. I was gonna say God was building a blueprint, but it was already built, child, okay? But God was revealing to me this blueprint that he had of my husband. And I had so much information, and I even began to remember those prophecies that God gave me when I was 18 and 23 years old. And then even in that, spending time with God, my desires began to change, and I began to desire not those old things that I used to desire, but I started to desire the things that God wanted for me. My desires turned into his, and that's in the scriptures, okay? Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and these things will be added unto you. And these things were added unto me because I began to desire the right things. And I wasn't seeking things. I wasn't seeking a husband. I wasn't seeking I was seeking God. And I was serving in church because that's what I believed that God led me to do at that time and in that season of my life. And in that just came this beautiful blueprint of my husband that God had for me. So by the time I got to know Joel, because we already met in 2016, I started to get to know him in 2018. He fit the description so much. It was clear to me. I was convinced that this was my husband beginning of 2019. 2018, it was some speculation. 2018, it was like, this boy is checking off all these boxes. And mind y'all, I hope that you're really understanding and you're peeping this out, that these boxes, these criterias, I didn't come up with the list. God showed me the list. I didn't come up, he gotta have this, he gotta have that. I didn't come up with the list. The list was revealed to me over time, bullet point by bullet point. God was just sharing, he's gonna have this, he's gonna have this, he's gonna be like this, everything. So by the time I met Joel, it was so clear to me, like, oh my gosh, this is the man that you've been telling me about since I was 18 years old. So some of the ways that I knew that Joel fit this blueprint that God gave me was, I already mentioned, I already knew him because I met him in 2016. So, the past doors were open. Joel had a heart for God and he wanted to live for God. And the desires that Joel had and the things that he wanted to do with his life, not only did it complement me, but it also mirrored what God was already sharing with me and my husband were gonna do. Another thing was our morals and our values were the same. We both wanted to do God's will. We were not perfect. Like where we are spiritually now, we were not there back then. But we had a desire, we had a heart for God. We wanted to do the right thing. And another way that I knew that, Joel was for me was that I had a desire to be with Joel and Joel had a desire to be with me. So the desire that I had though was very weird, y'all. Like I remember it was early on, we were talking, just friends, like Joel never told me he liked me. I never told him I liked him. Like none of that has been revealed yet or anything like that. And we were just talking. He was sharing with me his testimony. And at this time, I did not even know his name. And I was kind of embarrassed to ask him what his name was because I just felt like he was so vulnerable with me and like just share his testimony with me. So he shared his testimony with me. And literally after that, I had such a strong desire to want to be a part of his life. Like, and I remember telling my mom, I'm like, hey mom, like I met this guy in 2016 in Vegas. I don't even remember his name. I don't know where he lives because at that time I didn't know where he lived. I'm like, I don't know much about him. We talk about God all the time. And I was like, I really don't even remember like when I met him, you know, like I don't remember any of this. I said, but I have this strong desire to want to get to know him and I want to be a part of his future. And I'm like, it's weird because I've never felt this type of desire about any guy before. And it almost felt like the desire was beyond me. Like, why do I desire something so much? And I remember sharing that with my mom, and my mom was like, well, you know, sometimes God gives you his desires and his desires will burn in you. And if that is so, hide it in your heart, you know, keep praying about it and God will show you. And literally that God showed me. And I truly do believe that God gave me a desire to like want to be with Joel. Like it was strong. And I just felt like, why am I feeling this for somebody who I don't even know? Like I have not seen him. I don't know anything. I'm like, this is weird. Another way that I knew that Joel was the one for me is that God would use Joel to confirm things to me. I took that as God's way of showing me that he was with me. When we first started talking, we were like, we don't want to do anything. We want God to be leading this. We want to be sure. And there would be times where I would just write certain things that I was, you know, unsure about Joel, and I would write them to God. I never would tell them to Joel. I would just write them to God. And literally a day or two later, Joel would just come and just bring me the answer to those things. Any question or anything I was eerie about, whatever, God would use Joel to confirm it with me. And it was like the craziest thing. I was like, oh my gosh. But it was many instances like that. So another way that God confirmed with me and showed me that Joel was the one for me was because God was fighting for our relationship. And the only way that we knew that God was fighting for our relationship was because we had a lot of opposition. Our courtship was very hard. It was a lot of spiritual attacks and things like that. And some of them definitely did manifest. Some of them definitely did form, but they did not prosper and they will not prosper. So God really showed us that he was fighting for us. And I was like, okay, God, we have had several times to throw in the towel, and we tried to throw in the towel several times, and God just kept tugging on our hearts. God really fighting for this relationship let me know like, okay, this is serious. So yes, y'all, that's how I knew that Joel was the one. I hope that some of those things that I shared just resonated with you all. I truly believe that God is a master matchmaker. I did not do any seeking. I did not try to find any man. I did not come up with my own checklist. I did not build my own blueprint of what I wanted or what I thought my man was going to be. Literally, God gave it all to me. I didn't have to ask God for it. It just came to me as I was postured properly before God. And I really, truly do believe that if you desire that, that can be your story as well. You know, God may not do it exactly how he did it for me, but just the whole point of you not having to have this responsibility of trying to figure out who your husband was. The only responsibility that I had was just to choose the right one, because I had many options, come and go. But I had to make the choice, and God was responsible for giving me the information. And he did, you know, he gave me the information and the tools that I needed so that I can choose correctly. And I really do believe that women, my sisters in Christ, daughters of God, like that's all y'all got to do is just make the right choice. Posture yourself properly before God. be obedient, be in the right place at the right time, revelation and all these things, I just believe will just come to you and you'll know who God has for you. I really do believe that God is strategic and he's a perfect matchmaker. And if he desires for you to be married, that he has someone specifically for you. All you got to do, sis, is just choose him. Have the right information to make the right choice. Okay, so I really hope that you all enjoyed this video. Do not forget to click the link in my description box to check out Dossier to get you some fragrances, some luxury brand scents for an affordable price. You can also shop them at Walmart. So don't be rude, say something in the comments, any questions or anything you have, please feel free to leave them below. I hope that you all enjoyed this video. Sorry that it took so long. I will see y'all in my next upload. Pray and slay. Before you go, I don't know if you know, but Joel and I, we do have a couples channel where we mostly do vlogs and we're just sharing our day-to-day journey on what it's like to be husband and wife and just this journey that God has us on. So if you're interested in that, you're interested in just seeing the kind of unfiltered view of our lives, then I do suggest that y'all go to that channel and subscribe. Go watch our vlog because we do have one uploaded so you're caught up for the next one that's coming.